All right. Welcome to this episode of the Book Marketing Success Podcast. Today, I have Roberta Vigilance, who's written a number of books on sponsorships and getting sponsorships for events and for other causes. And so, Roberta, um, what we want to do is address how can authors make use of sponsorships, both for possibly for their uh, book launch parties, for their possibly the launch of their podcast, or for an ongoing sponsorship to their podcast or summit, or even to their book. And so, can you tell us first what is the difference between sponsorship and donations?
Yeah, absolutely, John. Thank you for having me. The difference between sponsorship and donation, sponsorship is more so a partnership where you're trading value for value. Donation is more so because I want to say, and I don't know everything about about not about um, nonprofits, about donations, I should say, excuse me. I know enough to say it's not the same because with a donation, a company is giving that nonprofit or even a person money as a way to support their event without receiving any type of quantifiable or value. So, for example, with donation, someone would donate $1,000 to your book launch and you say thank you. With sponsorship, someone gives you $1,000, you're saying thank you, and here is advertisement, here is a shift in your brand, here is a new demographic. You're giving them back something for that money that they're giving to you.
Even with donations, in some sense, aren't you giving them at least recognition or something? Um,
And that's the fine line.
yeah,
And that's where I know enough to say, and then that's where the confusion comes in and say, hey, we are giving them, we're saying thank you. We're putting out banners, we're putting them in our brochures, we're doing this. Again, so how do you know you're returning $1,000 at minimum in value? So that sponsor doesn't lose any value on the $1,000 that they gave, right? With sponsorship, you have to make sure how many people will see if you decide to put a logo in a brochure, a logo in your book, how
yeah.
many people will see it, and then prove it, right? When you're having the intelligent conversation and you're looking to upsell, prove it. Use a QR code. Maybe that QR code takes them to a newsletter or to something else, their web page or something else, and then they can track it. Similar to an affiliate, and it's not an affiliate, by the way. Again, people get confused with that. But how an affiliate program can track what that affiliate sells is the same thing with the sponsorship, improving that sponsorship return value. And if you can have that type of partnership, then that means that the sponsorship is successful.
So with sponsors, they're actually looking to get in front of your audience. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Whereas
It's all about
a donation may just be saying, "Hey, I just want to support you. You're doing good work."
you're doing good work. Correct. Whereas a sponsor, they are looking for more so of a return. The biggest asset that you have when you write a story is knowing who that audience is, right? Who are you writing to? Is it authors? Are you writing for event planners? Are you writing for people who are overcoming narcissistic relationships? Like, who is your audience, and that's who company want to get in front of. Whereas, again, and I speak lightly about donations, but I have worked with a client who has a nonprofit organization. Um, and just a side note, even with um, sponsorship versus donation, John, the language also it is different in a sense because when a company donates to your book, you really cannot say I'm going to provide you with marketing strategies, or I'm not sure, don't quote me on this. um, I believe the last time I read that you cannot even say I'm going to give you visibility for what for the money that you're giving me, because I think when you report back to the IRS, there's a certain way that a budget is set up as a nonprofit, and you cannot come across as a marketing agency because that's not what you are. You're a nonprofit there to get funds to do X, Y, and Z. So certain terms that you can use in a sponsorship proposal, I'll do brand shift. I'll bring you into a new language. Let's say these are things that nonprofits and donations are not supposed to return on that money that they get from that sponsor.
I think most authors would much prefer a sponsor an active participation with somebody, a company or group or whatever, that would actively sponsor their book and perhaps also help them not just with money, but with promotion.
Yeah, I would believe so when it comes to the long term. If you are a long term thinker, yes, absolutely. The key is, however, is to one, know that that sponsorship was successful so you can return without shame and a higher possibility of them saying yes. And then really following up, staying in contact. Anyone who knows me, I admit to myself, if I'm not working with a client to do get sponsorship for myself for my book, which I've done, continual follow up is not continuing to follow up is not always easy. Continuing to follow up is not always easy, but that is where the golden ticket is because you've already established relationship. You show them that the sponsorship is working. They received a return on that money that they gave, and they're like, okay, it's working. Here's more money. Go do a sequel book or something if it's the same
Right.
audience or something like that. That is where the true success is in the following up and keeping your sponsor.
And it would be really crucial if you were getting a sponsor for your podcast, in which case you'd want an ongoing relationship with them to sponsor every episode, rather than just the launch episode or something like that.
Yeah, now we're talking about people who are really the go-getters, right? They know that this is my podcast. I'm doing this long term, or I'll try it out for 12 months. Let me get a sponsor for that 12 months. And that to me is the best strategy. If you're
Yeah,
a person, say, I'm just doing a podcast to do a podcast, I've done it. I've jumped on the bandwagon and I'm like, uh-oh, podcast is a lot of work here. I didn't realize that. But if you are totally committed to that 12-year, get a long-term sponsorship. And it's great because it allows that sponsor to build a relationship with your audience. So you're not just shoving that sponsor down there through the first episode. Hey, thanks that was sponsored. Meet our sponsor. Go to their website. Tell them I sent you. Da 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 da. You're
yeah,
now building this story into, making the story part of the relationship building to land into the conversion funnel.
right. What do what do sponsors actually need from you in order for them to say yes? Let's say you're a first-time author and you don't have an audience yet. What can you give them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely, your audience is your greatest asset. Anyone can relate to a story out
Right.
there, right? So you find out who can relate to that story, who is already telling that story or should be telling that story, right? So you share with them your audience, you share what it is that you're looking, what is that, what are you bringing to them? What type of event? I want to publish 1,000 books, let's just say. And I'm a new author, and these books are going to this group of people. In my case, it was financial literacy because of sponsorship.
Right.
So these books are going to these amount of people, and I'll put your information inside of the book. So again, so they can get to know you or even to reinforce your brand. So sponsors want to be in front of their target audience, and they are looking successful sponsors, just like that ambitious sponsorship seekers, sponsor an ambitious, knowledgeable as well. Sponsor want to hear. They want to make sure that they will be receiving um, value for that sponsorship. And I want to highlight what they look for, John. I think the word today is in probably forever will be alignment. They want to make sure that your what they believe in as well aligns with what your storybook or the story in your book is talking about
Yeah.
or sharing.
It seems that what was I going to say? I went blank there. Um, there's probably a difference between let's say you're doing a local event for your book and you want sponsors versus launching a book nationally to a much bigger audience. You'd probably look for different kinds of sponsors.
You can if you are launching your book launch, right? Or you're doing a book signing within a local area, then you may want to get the local sponsors that again align with your event story. Not at every door. You don't want to go to every business and say, hey, would you sponsor my book? So if you are talking about health, you want to approach companies that maybe a gym or something that aligns with health, depending on the type of health. You
Right.
know, it is. You don't want to necessarily go to a junk food company and say, hey, would you sponsor? And I think that draws the lines with donation as well, because a junk food company will be glad to just, throw money at an event. Um, it would be strategic with a sponsorship if that junk food company is looking to provide, good food per se, to that audience. So it would be a great sponsorship there. Um, so to answer your question, which I think hopefully I'm still on track with your question. Um, when you go nationally, here's the thing, depending on how well you know that local audience, maybe they are able to serve a national audience, right? They're growing into a sector, or maybe they have a brand even, that's going nationally. Um, you can bring them along. Your book can now take them, for example, from Arizona to, if you're launching your book tour in Arizona, New York, and other places, and you can bring that sponsor along with you. So let's think um, a grand opening at your in New York, and this store is stationed in Arizona. Then you use your leverage, which is the audience you have. It doesn't matter if you're new or how seasoned you are, how well known you are in the industry. You can then, at that book launch, have some type of strategy set up where that sponsor can receive notoriety within that state of New York, right? So you could take a local sponsor for a local launch as well as a national launch. You can get a corporate sponsor for a local launch as well as a national launch.
I could see it more with corporate. I don't think a local vet in Arizona would want to sponsor your pet book uh, in New York because that's not his audience unless he's selling some sort of supplements or things like that that would then interest an audience in a much wider area. Uh,
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
but some of the probably local vets may want to launch some sort of national product, in which case your book on pet care would be a perfect synergy.
Yes, yes. They can also use it as as testing, right? Let's see if people are interested. I want to open up a shop, or some type of space in another city. Let's try this out. Again, it's knowing your audience and letting that company know, I have your audience. I'm going to a different city. Are you thinking about expanding in this city? You just don't know what's going on internally as well. For
Right.
example, called a sponsor where outside it looks like it's all about sustainability. And then when I had the conversation, it was like, no, we're doing something different. Sustainability is so old, but they already established themselves there, but now they're doing something else. And sometimes we just don't know until we have the conversation with them. And one thing I strongly believe in is don't assume that they don't want what you have. If you feel that you're adding value, you're bringing your audience will be interested in learning about that sponsor, using the sponsor's product, call, have the conversation. Just don't disregard it.
I think in today's world, actually easier now to get a sponsor in some ways because even some local companies have a national presence via the web. And so even though they may be primarily focused on dog care in Kingman, Arizona, they may, because of their website, have informational articles that apply anywhere in the country that would possibly help them attract, if nothing else, certainly tourists passing through that have a dog care problem.
Absolutely. That's a great way, John, to use sponsorship. Totally agree with you.
How do people struggle to get sponsors? Why do they, even when they have a great idea?
I think people believe that sponsorship is hard, or sometimes even they believe that they need to be a nonprofit to receive it. You could be an author,
Yeah.
an individual, an event. It don't need to be a nonprofit. Um, I believe when more people become aware, not only become aware of a sponsorship, but truly understand the fundamental, they'll find out that um, securing sponsor is a process, just like everything else.
And this is a question that actually probably will scare a lot of authors. How early should you start approaching potential sponsors for your book, podcast, whatever event you're hosting?
Yeah, I'm glad you said it. It can take anywhere from 6 months. Now, for a local event, I would say you can get a sponsor in 3 months. Um, I truly believe that. You can, when you're talking about bigger budgets, a national tour, you're probably looking at six figures, if I'm right. So I would say give it 6 months to a year, because budgets are already allocated into the future. So you want to be on their radar. Call them as soon as you have that budget. As soon as you know your audience, as soon as you have that sponsorship proposal, start calling them to build the relationships. You may just get a yes, right? Find out that you know someone there. You might get an early yes, or they're there already. They have the budget and they are truly ready. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay. But
I,
sometimes the waiting process take a while.
I've heard many sort of sad stories from people that said, "Well, this corporation told me, boy, I really like your book. I like what you're doing. I'd love to do it, but my budget's spent for this year."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's one reason you have to contact them earlier in the game when you have the idea for the book or you have the idea for the
Yes.
podcast or
Yes.
something like that, so that you can take the time to build a relationship, alert them so that they can build you into their budget. Because the chances are, so many writers write such great books, and you I want to say it, you deserve a good sponsor.
I agree. And the sponsor deserves a good book,
They
right?
do,
To be part.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually,
Yeah.
that's a nice angle that you just brought up is you really have to think about it as you're serving the sponsor. Yes, you hope to get some money from them, but you know, you are serving the sponsor because you're going to open up a bigger audience to them. So they deserve you, as you said.
Yeah. And remember, the author is the one who has the connection with the audience, not the sponsor, right? Unless, like you said earlier, it's the other way around, right? The sponsor is coming in with the audience and making you part of the audience. You can go that way as well. And the other side is that, um, and even if you were to go that way, it is you are the one, meaning the author is the one who has the connection with the audience, whether they know the audience personally or they are solving a problem or telling a story to that audience where that audience can connect with. So that is what sponsors use as leverage to communicate their message with the target audience, with the readers. Let's say they use the author to communicate that language, because who when you're talking about the dog food, right? Who would you believe? A commercial that you see on television, or your favorite author, someone you know who is an author, hopefully your favorite author, but who is actually letting their audience know about this dog food and go try it out or go learn about the company or go buy the stock or whatever it is.
Right.
Who better than the author?
I remember reading about one novelist who intentionally made, I think it was Bulgari watches. I'm not in the market of expensive watches, but this was a high-end watch, and she showcased it in her novel in a big way with the intention of getting Bulgari to sponsor her book, and they did.
Nice. That story turned out with a happy ending. People do it on even side notes in music, and hopefully they don't make it a habit. I don't know if that's the best way all the time, John. Maybe you can say that's the best way to go about building a relationship with the sponsor. Um,
And probably
Fortunately,
not, because you're in the middle of writing the book and so on. But at least it's an idea of
a great
what you
idea.
can do, and certainly you can build in sponsorship opportunities into your book and say, oh, this section of my book about happiness, uh,
Yeah.
I should approach a supplement company that says, take my happy pill, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can do that for each chapter. Or you could and you could get the maybe even a title sponsor, believe it or not, if you want to share that real estate of your title, your storybook or your book title with a sponsor. You can have them throughout the entire story of your book. And you can have more than one sponsors. The
Yeah.
happy pill sponsor, if you want to go into a sad pill sponsor or whatever, the story is about depression. Who can, maybe what is this, a psychologist, a local psychologist, let's say, that serves internationally. She worked with, um, with clients nationally and internationally. You can have them be a sponsor of that chapter, not necessarily the entire book, because the entire book may not be about depression itself, just that chapter that you're dealing with. Are you dealing with these things in your life? This is how you overcome it, sponsored by this psychologist.
Yeah. So many books now lend themselves to, really wide audience potentially. My wife has read a number of books where she then connects with the author for health related questions. And, with Zoom calls and, um, uh, forget what it's called. Anyway, where you can online visit with the doctor. Uh, these things happen, and she's done many interactions like that where she's worked with a doctor that's in another state or another city to answer a question or solve a solution for it. So even though you may be a local doctor, if you've written a book, you have a potentially large, big audience that would be able to interact with you through video and so on.
Absolutely, John. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
And that means that you have a potential for sponsorship that's national, not just local.
Yeah, bigger budget, um, return, bigger same return, just bigger audience. Um, it depends. It could be a small, 20,000 versus 200,000. Um, but that's exactly what I am talking about, how you can use sponsorship to generate revenue before, during, and after your book is published.
There's another phenomenon in the book industry called cause-related marketing. And that's where a publisher will hook up with a cause, maybe Sierra Club or, you know, Alzheimer's Association, something like that, for a book on, let's say, Alzheimer's. And the author says, I'm going to showcase you. I would like to put your logo on my cover, tell you that a certain amount of my money, income will be donated to the cause. All I ask from you is that you let your members know that this book is coming out and something like that. And there have been companies that built their business on being cause-related publishers. And
Absolutely.
and and like you said, it's sort of between donorship and donor being a donor and a sponsor. But in this case, they're neither really, because you're just saying, I'm going to give you the attention. I'd like to put your logo on. I just need your logo on, but I need your permission. And
Right.
so you're not asking for money from them. You're asking ideally, and you hope that they will promote it to their audience. And if they have a catalog or something like that, or a store online, they will sell your book. But your main reason is that you want to support them because you believe in their cause, but you still would like to put the logo on the book so that it becomes, you sort of get their stamp of approval without necessarily any money exchanging hands.
Yeah, and that's where we talk about the resource. I would consider that a resource. And it is, I would put it definitely under, or put it with sponsorship as well as the in-kind sponsorship, right? We're
Okay.
not talking money, we're talking about the in-kind right now.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
right?
So
Yep.
it would be in kind, which means that they're not giving you money, but they are giving you some value.
They're giving a lot of value in the scenario that you just mentioned, because that nonprofit may have 1 million may have 1 million members that they are given that book author access to. And why? Because that author, the story heals their members, educate their members, XYZ,
Yeah.
right? Now we're looking at the value. They want to know about this, the author, what value, you're bringing. I'm giving you access to 1 million, um, to 1 million members. If we were to say each member equals $1, that's $1, that's $1 million in sponsorship. As an author, how am I returning that $1 million in value back to you? Minimum. How? So that is things that the author have to consider, um, create strategies for it, use their network as leverage to
Yeah.
return value back to the sponsor.
What is the biggest mistake that people make when they reach out to a sponsor? I know
I
what I
believe
would say,
the,
but I'd like to hear what you say.
yeah, I believe the biggest thing, the biggest mistake is really not being aligned with the sponsor, whether it's intentional or not. If we're not aligned, then they're going to say, sorry, we're not aligned. But if you were to just know the value that you're bringing, know your event audience, what you want for them, and you bring or what that event has to offer, and you find those companies that are looking for the same thing. If you miss that mark, then it becomes difficult. I see this a lot with locals, right? If I'm, for example, let's take my book, How to Secure Sponsors Successfully. I take it and I try to sell it to an entertainment industry. Unless that entertainment industry has maybe an app or something that they are targeting event planners, then it wouldn't make any sense. I'm wasting my time calling these companies because they're looking for entertainment content. Um, Whereas I would become more successful when I call financial literacy programs or organization that sponsor. That's where sponsorship falls under. So targeting the wrong sponsor is one. I believe what will pass that by quite a noticeable percentage is not knowing how much funding to ask for.
Oh,
So yeah, that's a big one. I don't know how much money to ask for. What should I ask for? I really need 10,000, but I'm going to ask for 1,000, and then they're not sure. How do I know? How do I know how much to ask for? Am I asking for too much? Am I asking for too little? And the real question is just what value are you bringing to the table? What value are you bringing to the table when it comes to speaking to sponsors? What are you
yeah.
offering?
Yeah. The one I was going to say, which is true for a lot of things, is not following up, not connecting with them more than once.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that's true
That,
for, bookstores, it's true for publicity, it's true for so many things, is that if you want to get on a podcast as a guest, you got to knock on the door probably more than once in many cases. Sometimes you get through on the first knock, but often you have to knock more than once. And I would guess that that's true for sponsors as well.
absolutely, totally top of the list. Follow up is key. Calling or contacting a sponsor once and then like, oh, they didn't respond. Maybe they didn't get it. Maybe they are away on maternity leave. Maybe it's the wrong person. Maybe it could be it never got to them. We just don't know. Follow up is key. And if you're not able to follow up, I would say hire someone to follow up because you're getting a yes, you're getting a no, you're getting information maybe next year when our budget is open, or sorry, we're not a right fit. We're not looking for that any longer. You're getting so much like good information that you need that tells you if this is a good fit, should I continue to follow up
Yeah.
or not?
And, it's the one thing that a lot of, I understand it. It's hard work, to follow up. So if you don't have an assistant or somebody, a virtual assistant in today's world, that could follow up for you. And I don't know if I should go with this question, but I'm gonna jump a question on you. I apologize. Would you ever use
I love
AI?
questions.
Would you ever use AI to follow up?
Absolutely, yes, if I understand AI. So I have a simple way to follow up, right? So with the client that I'm working with, and this is easy peasy. One of the service that we provided was to create a list, to generate a list of sponsors that align with what she has to offer, the sponsor.
Yeah,
So now I've done this with, sorry, more than one client. So they have this list, target list, customized just for them. At this point, they really don't need my service any longer because we already found out who's the contact person. The contact person already know about my client. So all they need to do, my clients need to do, is use that list, that maybe an hour out of the week, an hour out of the day, depending on how many sponsors you want to connect, because it could become this number game as well. For sure it is. Um, you call, you set that date, that timer, and I'm going to call all these sponsors and just follow up. Now, if you are able to do that, that's just easy peasy follow up, 1 hour per week or 5 hours per week. It's really just that simple.
but
Not easy
no,
sometimes.
but certainly you could probably use AI to do follow-up emails, automatically sent out or something like that.
Yes, yes. For those who, and John, hands down, I'm not nowhere near, your league when it comes to using technology. But for those who knows and understand, I guess even the basic, as you said, where some of us is not the basic, it's like, oh gee whiz, thanks for reminding us we can do that. Yes, that works absolutely well. Just as good as having a person follow up. But of course, you have to stay on top of it to know who opened up the emails and what time they open it if you're targeting the sponsor, let's say outside of your area, because you can. You mentioned we spoke about excuse me, local and national. You can also get an international brand and bring them into your into your country or your side of the world. You can do
Yeah.
that as well. So what time an email is open, that's important as well. um, I hired a VA to do it, and she told me because I'm not the tech person, the hands-on person, I just want to know who opened, what their response, are, etc. So yes, she mentioned to me that she's going to time those emails and send it out one day and time it according to who opened what or who didn't
Yeah.
open it. So that's interesting. Yeah.
There's so much new opportunities. I mean, 40 years ago, publishing changed altogether, with ebooks and the turnaround time on doing print on demand, where you can launch a book the day after you think about it, if you want to. Uh,
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't recommend that in most cases because you want to at least take some time to build an audience if you don't already have one. But if you have the audience, you can launch the book very, very quickly. But that's all technology, changes in the how printing is done, changes in ebook technology and all of that. And I would guess that there's some of that with sponsorship now, just in terms of what you can do with AI and stuff you can do with virtual assistants or people that may, live hundreds of miles from you, but you can still work with them. And all those things are sort of new in today's world and still offer you an opportunity.
Absolutely. It's good once you know how to use AI and know what you're using it for. I think the most important thing that I have discovered with AI is that it does not omit from you not knowing your stuff. So if you're going to write a story on whatever topic or whatever subject it is, make sure you know that subject well, enough to say, to call it your own. Because again, if you're going after a sponsor partner, remember it's a partner,
Yeah.
don't underestimate what they know. So make sure you know your style. For example, if someone wants to throw their information into whichever AI tool it is and say, well, write a sponsorship proposal for me, again, you have to make sure that you understand sponsorship because AI has a habit of sometimes just writing its own stuff. You're like, this is not what I want, but you're able to say that because you understand what it is that you're looking for. You're just asking AI to write it a bit stronger for you, and with a little bit more better grammar, or but you need to know your stuff
Yeah.
when using AI.
What is one simple step that someone could do today to be more attractive to sponsors?
The one thing I would say is to know your story. Okay. So, what's the purpose? The first thing is just work, starting with self, right? Be true to self. We're not chasing the money because it will have you chasing your tail. Just me. When it comes to writing a book, if you try to write it for everybody, you're not writing it for anyone. So, purpose. What's the purpose of the book? Know that. Um, what's the story? What's the purpose? The next thing is the expected outcome. After you read my book, I want people to feel so knowledgeable that they say, okay, now I can go out and secure sponsors. Now I can write my sponsorship proposal. So know your purpose, know the expected outcome, know your audience, who you are writing your book for, right? Took me a long time to figure it out, even though I knew exactly who I was writing it for. Uh, People who are planning events and are looking for money to offset the cost or even increase profit. I knew exactly, but I believe that's where it becomes so tricky because there's so much information out here that tells us that
Yeah.
your demographic could be this, or you could be that, or you could be this, and it's have you in a whirlwind for a very long time. Sometimes you just don't even write your book because you no longer know who you're writing for. So know your audience. Once you know your audience, you find out who is targeting your audience and consider them to be your sponsor partner.
Okay. Um, any other pieces of advice you'd like to share with book authors and publishers?
Yeah, absolutely. As an author myself, I think that um, your book. I just want to insert your book, 1,001 Ways to Market Your Book. I think knowing those strategies that are in your book, you can even tag a sponsor to each strategy. Again, um, in just thinking about how ambitious you are, how much time you have to invest, how many people maybe you can even hire. But if you are a one person show, I would say the same thing to, maybe even consult a book author, but I would say to write your book, like get it out your system, right? I would say everyone should just really just write a book. I don't care if it's 10 pages or 500 pages or more. Write that book, get a partner, bring a sponsor along with you, whether you are inserting that sponsor in your story, like think seriously about it, having a sponsor partner because you are helping them as well. Your story is helping them. Get a good partner, a good partner, whether you share again, place them in your book or you sell your book in bulk, to really bring along a good sponsor partner with you.
It's sort of interesting. You just brought up in mind, when authors can sell like bulk copies to a company for some reason, like Chicken Soup for the Pet Lovers sold did when they sold it to the IM's pet food company, and they sold 1 million copies. But one of the things, and I heard it when you said you could have a book of 10 pages to 500 pages. And the thing is, when you're doing like bulk sales to corporations, or probably, which is very similar to sponsorships in some ways, you don't have to sell them the entire cookbook, let's say that you have that's 300 pages long. You may only sell them the 10 pages that have recipes for cottage cheese or milk or for ketchup or whatever it might be. And then you sell it to the Del Monte company, uh, the ketchup recipe, something like that. So that it becomes a 10-page book, but it's okay because they're still going to buy, and they can afford to buy many more copies when it's a smaller book than when it's a larger book, if they want to pass it on to the people. I mean, if I had been the Iams Pet Food Company, I wouldn't have bought the entire Pet Lovers Show book. I would have bought the three best stories and then done a shorter book that would have been less expensive for me.
Yeah, and they can, again, depending on the budget, they can do both if they
Right.
so choose, right?
Right.
Um, how do you incorporate that sponsor into a short book versus the longer version uh, that's coming out, right? Or so yes, you can get a sponsor for the numbers. I don't know if that would have made a difference, John, as far as if they would have purchased 1 million short books versus 1 million long books, or purchase 1 million long books versus short books. I don't know if that would make a difference if the numbers, the reach is still the same, or the quality of the content is it still the same? Maybe a longer book could be an upsell. You have to look deeply at
Yeah,
at those things too.
it's the whole thing, but the only point I was trying to make is that you don't have to feel like you have to sell sponsorship for the entire book. You can sell it for
Yeah,
a chapter or something like that. Just as you could
yeah,
get a sponsor for your podcast episode by episode rather than long term if that's what they want. They want to test it out and they want to do the next 3 episodes you're doing, something like that. Especially if you're doing, let's say, for my podcast, if I wanted to do I mean, it's all about book marketing, but I could do, let's say, 3 podcast episodes on printing and printing technology or printing books, and then get printers to sponsor those 3 episodes.
correct,
So,
correct. Because now we know where to go. John told us where to go.
and so you can get sponsors you don't have to be looking at, oh, I got to get this big thing. It could be a small thing. It could be a small, oh, like, we talked about in the beginning, you could do a local book launch. I mean, in today's world, you could do a launch online, in which case you're reaching out to a national audience. But I know a lot of people that want to do a launch party in their hometown so that they can showcase their book to all their friends and have a good meal, or whatever it might be. And so maybe they work out with a deal with the restaurant to sponsor the launch party, and so it's a local, one-time thing, but it could be, something bigger and where you're doing a series of videos, launch parties or something like that somebody could sponsor. So you can think small, you can think larger, short term, long term. So there's a lot of options in terms of how you seek out sponsors.
Absolutely. And you think about the value that you're returning to that sponsor. So you get the restaurant and everyone now, your belly's full. What happens, right? That sponsor, that restaurant just spent maybe $1,000 feeding you and your guests. What are they getting in return? Because they need that money to continue running their business as
Right,
well. So are you
right.
going to bring in future business? Are you going to celebrate future anniversary or bring guests there? Like what will they receive from giving you their space and their
Yeah.
food other than a thank you?
Yes. You don't want just a thank you, uh, because then all you've done is donated
Correct. Correct.
and thrown some money out the door. But
Yeah.
you know, I could see where a local restaurant or bar or whatever event facility that you use for a launch party might very well be interested in your launch party because of the people and the quality of the people you're bringing in.
Yeah. You're bringing new customers. Yeah. You're bringing in, as you mentioned, a grace as well to the business, the type of customers, maybe a different type of customer, a new type of customer. Yeah, that is true. That is true.
So I guess I go back to the one question again. Is there any other advice you want to offer book authors about sponsorship or event planning or anything like that?
Write your book and partner with a good sponsor.
And the secret tip to finding that good sponsor?
It is knowing your audience, knowing who your story is for, and finding a company that is targeting the same audience and convert them into becoming your sponsor.
Oh, cool. I like that. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Roberta, for being on this podcast. I really appreciate it. Your wisdom, your savvy, all that is just wonderful. So thanks a lot. And I hope to have you on again late another time.
Don, thank you.